Hello everyone, and welcome to an episode of LostinTranslationmon. This time we're covering Digimon Ghost Game episode 33, Whispers of the Dead. I'm May, and I'm joined by the lovely Chloe.
Hello.
And of course the equally lovely Quinn.
Hi. And this week's, although they're probably not going to talk much, I actually have my friend Anthony in town, which is awesome. I've been looking forward to this all year.
Yay!
Woohoo.
So just a quick synopsis before we get into it. This week we had Picklemon to make his return as being called Picklemon apparently, which will always be funny to me.
Yeah.
It's like Toei keeping on writing Ogamon as Orgamon. It's just one of those things.
Yep.
Forever titter. Forever. I will just find that funny.
Yep.
So we have Picklemon and Gammamon having a bit of a play fight. Picklemon ends up just straight up killing Kiyoshiro.
Kind of repeatedly?
Yeah, just like, so that's a thing. And then Kiyoshiro basically has a near-death experience, but Jellymon is able to bring him back. But ever since this moment, he is hearing a voice of a Digimon who really wants to be his friend by taking him over the River Styx, and that is Sepikmon. So that is horrifying. Mm-hmm. He ends up having a bunch of, like, almost deaths in terms of these accidents that happen, and ends up getting isekai'd in Digimon, which is very normal, apparently. Almost Koichi from Frontier-esque levels of isekai.
Not quite, but yeah.
Yeah, not quite as fun this time. And he is almost brought over the River Styx by Sepikmon, but Jellymon uses some medicine from Mummymon to help him come back. And also she brings back Sepikmon because that seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and then we need the world's quickest resolution to the problem.
Yep.
I feel like that I'm missing something in that. There's something that must be part of the folklore about bringing this between-world object to a temple to hang out with some spirits or something. I'm sure there's something there that we're just missing.
There is probably. It's not ringing a bell for me. Anything specific, though?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't ring a bell for me either, but it seems like that would be where you would take it, like to hang out with somewhere where spirits hang out, like, I don't know, like Spirited Away has the bathhouse where all the spirits hang out with. Anyway, so that's this week's... Oh, and we also get a Digimon Analyzer for no reason at the end for the first time.
That's a weird decision that we could have really used that time to talk at all with Sepikmon.
So...
Yeah, I think...
Was this episode the same length as all the other ones, or was it a little longer? Because I might have been mistakenly under the impression that this episode was a little longer, and I thought that was because they just kind of gave the little Digimon Analyzer thing its own, 40 seconds or so at the end.
I'm going to be real, I didn't look at the timestamp for the episodes, but I don't... It didn't...
I'm
it'd be weird...
now.
Like, both
no,
of them...
same length.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be surprised because when they allocate a show a time slot, usually that time slot doesn't randomly change. So
yeah,
it's still meant to fill a time slot, which is, this time to this time with ad breaks in the middle.
Yeah.
If they added like an extra minute, it would impact the next show coming on, or would impact the ad breaks.
You'd have to
can't imagine
change
them
the
doing
ad breaks every time they ran the episode in the future, which...
Yeah.
has become a problem for serialized television because ad breaks used to be shorter in the 90s.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember when ad breaks were really short and then they became 4 minutes.
Yep.
And then people stopped paying for television.
So now that we're done discussing the synopsis, let's discuss the discussions. So what were our highlights this week?
This was a good episode. It was actually pretty scary, even for a Ghost Game episode, and like unabashedly so, and I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did not beat around the bush about killing someone.
Yeah.
And basically, Kiyoshiro did die.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, and that
he got revived, but he died. Yeah, I did not expect them to, like, when I saw the preview, I thought that he might have some, I don't know, fever dream or something. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he's so sick that he's almost dead. But not that he was actually he'd die twice.
Yeah.
Like, that was surprising. And we've seen death in Digimon before in terms of human characters, but they're not a main character. They're usually maybe it's before the events of the series. Like we'll have like a family member of the character die, but we won't really have on screen main character human death.
Yeah,
we'll have Digimon death.
Yeah,
we've occasionally had just rando victims this season.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a main character bite the dust, so I was legitimately surprised that they committed to that this episode.
Yeah, I'm surprised they did it in Digimon like at all. Like that seems like something that I would never expect from Digimon. In previous seasons, it was almost comedic how the humans should always be dead.
Yeah.
Like the humans are just standing in a battlefield screaming and not dying. So it never really occurred to me
Attack
that
the
it would be
Children
possible.
has been a meme on this show for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we have had some Digimon Attack the Children, I think, in this, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, in Original Adventure, occasionally a human would be put in danger. Kari was put in danger. In the Japanese version, Puppetmon pulled out a gun at Takaru. So they definitely have done
not never, but
they've put humans in danger before, in harm's way, but they've never
except
actually,
for Koichi.
Except for Koichi, but then again, he was cried on and it was all better.
Yeah,
Koichi,
I mean, this one also just got all better.
Yeah,
he died twice, but he got better.
Yeah, Koichi is a good comparison to make because he did basically die. He was in a coma, so it is similar, and he did go somewhere while his body was still in the human world, but
he sure did give a dying speech spirit while giving his power to his brother.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was definitely like as close as Digimon has ever gone to actually killing a main character. However, it still happened before the events of the series.
Yeah, also true. And they were, he fell down some stairs and is implied to have gotten badly hurt. That is, like it was a very non-violent near-death experience, as opposed to
I can't remember.
Hit by a bomb that should have blown up your entire apartment complex.
Yeah. Well, and I mean it did in the digital
Frontier,
world.
Yeah. In Frontier, do we know how long between episode 1 and episode 50 whatever actually was? Like how long was he in a coma? Like, he could have just been knocked out for an
given
hour.
the stuff with why can't I think of the main character's name at this point? Takuya's whole time travel-y nonsense, I think the whole thing is supposed to have taken place over the course of 3 hours.
Yeah, so there's that's just being knocked out. He wasn't even he might have been in an almost coma, but it comes close to death, but it wasn't just straight up killing a human in front of everyone.
Anyway, so we should get back to highlights specifically, rather than just kind of talking about the same thing forever. I like that we kind of built some cosmology. I can't tell if this was plot or not, but I feel like we're building to doing something with, by the way, the River Styx exists and has Wi-Fi. But, don't think about how your dad hasn't been around for a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, not just that it has Wi-Fi, it has, reception.
I'm telling you,
was funny.
It's the 7G.
That was kind of you have to suspend your disbelief, kind of. I didn't... When he, tried to turn on his phone, I was like, okay, it's just not going to work because you're in purgatory, you're in the netherworld, you are... you were between the lives of living and death.
But then he grabbed a USB cable.
Yep.
Because
that was hilarious.
Because your watch and your phone can definitely tether like that.
That was so dumb.
Super have the API for that setup.
Yep.
Actually, my phone actually has a setting when it's plugged into something via USB, you can either charge device or charge the phone. So that is something that is absolutely 100%. I could definitely
that
but power and data are not the same thing.
Yeah, but you could not charge your phone from your watch. I all but guarantee.
Yes, I could.
Really?
I'm just saying that you can charge. Yeah.
But importantly, I don't think you could make a phone call based on your watch's access to data.
You know what? I'm going to, just for the purpose of this, I'm going to let my phone get to 0%, and then I'm going to, like, plug it into my Digivice to see what... I know that it does have that functionality where you can, when you plug it into something, you can say, charge this device or charge other device.
Really?
So it is...
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
On the Digivice. That's wild.
Yeah, the Digivice has micro USB.
I didn't realize that it could do power in both directions. Yeah. That's wild.
That's how you charge the Digivice on the Vata bracelet Digivice. It has a micro USB.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm a fan of that. That is pretty cool.
Fair. I'm gonna be the meme because it is my role on this show. A girl who's only ever seen Ava gets major Ava vibes from this episode. But
absolutely.
Like, tell me that Kiyoshiro being in limbo and like having to fight his way back wasn't just, Shinji hit the 400% sync rate and has been absorbed into the plug.
Yeah, no, they hit the great beyond depth.
Yeah.
That is 100% what it was like. I didn't think of it at the time, but you are... I can picture the exact scene, and because it's black and white, no one else is there. That is just Evangelion.
Yeah.
It's always Evangelion, every episode.
But hey, still from the best,
This episode was, like, eerily similar to some things that happened in real life to me a while back, and I definitely feel like, it was probably inspired by an actual incident that happened for one of the writers, and that really kind of came through, and I really liked that about this. It felt scary because there were stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a very scary, but also I guess it did feel almost realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's a low key part of the episode, but going and getting an MRI and having someone tell you, oh, is low-key, like, the scariest thing that happened in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like every time myself or somebody I know that I've been with has had an MRI, it has gone that way of just like, oh, like, good, thanks, doctor. You just put me into a machine only to pull me out and say, oh, IDK, LOL. Like,
so the secret is to figure out in advance what they're looking for, tell them that you've diagnosed yourself and exactly what all of your symptoms are, and that here's the place they need to look, and then they might find it.
Yeah, maybe.
Or they'll just
Doctors
ignore you
are
anyways.
useless, and I hate them.
Yeah. So, any other highlights? Because I loved this episode so much. I did have one problem with it, but mostly just highlights. Loved this episode. Creeped me out. And also, again, surprised me. We're just killing, like, the main characters now.
Yeah.
God, please, just kill Hero. Have that be the end of the series.
That'd be pretty metal.
Kinda did it with Atmon.
I mean, yeah, kind of, I guess. You're not wrong. But I kind of want to see them, it's going to sound weird to say, but I hope they kill the main characters more often and just, kind of keep bringing them back and make them be, like, these just, like, weird-ass...
Traumatize the children.
Undead detective kids with Digimon.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Because we've established you can do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah, Kiyoshiro definitely already has some fears and some issues going on, but he definitely has PTSD now. And I'm wondering if they'll ever expand on that, like, beyond just his usual level of fear that he's had in each episode. If he actually has some form of PTSD because of the events of this episode, I'd be kind of surprised if they did that, but also absolutely
I feel
down
like they are building up to doing something with his underlying mental trauma at some point, but I don't know that they will hearken specifically back to this episode when they do, even though they certainly should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he actually has some trauma to make him like this, or if he's just generic scaredy cat.
I sure feel like they've hinted at specific trauma and or mental illness, rather than just is like this.
But it wouldn't be the first time an anime or any piece of media has had character is just a scared cat.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
That is character.
So we'll see. I would certainly like it if they expanded on that and, let a character have character development beyond I'm going to be the hero because I need to be the hero and the protagonist.
I mean, I'm glad this episode did not really have as much hero or Ruri. It was mainly
he stood behind a doctor.
Yeah, it was a Mummymon episode, really. It was Kiyoshiro, Jellymon, and also Mummymon, and I do like that. I do like that we are learning where the other characters were. I was surprised to not only see
and
Picklebon
horrible
again.
Betsumon cameo.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually kind of happy that I saw Betsumon, and he says that he's here because of Clockmon. So Clockmon is getting Betsumon to help out at the hospital to help the kids. Like, I'm glad that we actually did something with that, rather than just, like, hand wave, oh, Clockmon's handling that, we don't have to ever see or speak of them ever again.
Yeah,
I did like that.
We're dealing with previous episodes in a way that felt relatively organic, which, you know, it has... I mean, for a show that has had, you know, basically no plot for the last 14 episodes or so, like, to weave in at least some amount of, oh yeah, we do remember that episodes previous to this one happened. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than not ever acknowledging that they happened, but I don't know. I
sure wish that this was the norm and not the special treatment.
Well, and I don't know. I guess I wasn't a huge fan of the... Well, are we ready to move into lowlights? Because otherwise... I'm gonna...
Yeah, I think I've said my highlights.
I'm good to lowlights. I just generally just like this episode. Yep, so let's go on to lowlights.
Okay, so I guess to continue my thought then, now that we're officially on lowlights, I just don't really like how they do the... And, you know, I get that it's shonen, so every, you know, former enemy that you've fought, if they aren't dead, they will eventually become your friend, because this is a shonen anime. But... I don't know. It's just like, oh yeah, Betsumon was a real asshole last episode, and now he's just here helping because reasons.
Yeah, but he didn't look happy with it. At least he looked like he was. I'm only here because Clockmon told me. Like, he wasn't happy to be helping. He wasn't happy to be there. He is unhappy. So I didn't mind that too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just felt like it didn't really contribute much to have that be him, aside from just, you know, acknowledging that past events happened.
Oh, it was 100% on the other hand, just past events happening.
I would have at least had a brief... Okay, but seriously, how did we get from the ambulance to Mummymon? Does Mummymon just work here? So, you know, they did address that for me, I guess.
Yeah, that is more or less one of the reasons Betsumon was there, which is nice. Like, it said, okay, I'm taking you to Mummymon because this is my job now. He just works in a hospital helping out Mummymon, I guess, and also helping out the kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I won't disagree with you that, you know, it didn't add a whole lot, but God, this show could just stand to be 2 minutes longer every episode.
Yep,
absolutely. And that's the problem. I call it the Ghost Game problem week after week, because that's what it is. It is a problem that this series has that impacts basically more or less every episode, or the majority of episodes. And even the episodes where I've given 5 out of 5 for... they can still suffer from
that curve.
Yeah, that they're still suffering from that Ghost Game issue of just, if this episode was 2 minutes faster, I wouldn't have any lowlights. Like, my 5 out of 5s tend to have the lowlight of being, oh, it was a Ghost Game episode, so it was the same length, but they had to rush the ending, or rush the battle, or rush any explanation about something. At least they gave Sepikmon a reason for being like this, and gave him some quick lore. But I guess this is my low light, is the fact that, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, they left it completely ambiguous. It could just be me missing it because I'm not familiar with Japanese folklore, but I would have liked them to be more obvious about where Sepikmon is. But again, I'm not the intended audience. I'm not a Japanese child.
I mean, I won't lie to you, my closest cultural touchstone is FF10, where I'm like, yeah, he, you know, Sepikmon just looks like he's at Ascending, complete with you know, glowing balls of things that'll turn into monsters if Yuna doesn't dance. People die and Yuna dabs. Alright, but yeah, okay. Don't worry about it, old memes.
But yeah, that's my low light, and it's not even something like, it could just be something that's not obvious to me because I don't know Japanese folklore, but I just felt like, you know, oh, I know where we can put Sepikmon. Cuts to Sepikmon chasing butterflies in a field with a temple in the background. I'm sure this means something. I'm sure it does. I'm sure it's very obvious if you ask anybody in Japan, but I'm not in Japan, I'm not Japanese, I'm not well-versed in Japanese folklore at all. So there might be something that I'm missing here.
Maybe?
Pardon?
Anyway, Adashino's graves, maybe? I'm pulling the data from a Wikipedia article I read a year ago. So
maybe, or just like, I don't know, somewhere where spirits hang out, because Sepikmon wants to be friends with spirits and people who are already dead. So it would make sense for them to go somewhere where there are spirits of people or something. But the show really could have had a little, translator's note. Keikaku means let's hang out in a field and chase butterflies or something. Like, just give me something that is missing, because there is something that is definitely lost in translation here. That's the name of the podcast. So
I would be very curious to see what the dub has to do to make that end.
I would have so much faith in a dub, like, doing that well and explaining, like, oh, it's going to hang out where my grandma was buried or something. Just add something.
Sure. I'm very curious to see where they eventually decide, because they got to be very quick about it. It's not like they have, room to add a bunch of dialogue.
I think they might replace Angoromon's haiku with it.
That's like a good idea, just in general.
Yeah.
Because we have Angoromon's, we have, this weird circle of Angoramon, which is just random floating, disembodied Angoramon.
It was pretty bizarre.
So that was really funny. But Angoramon could be saying something, like, explaining some folklore, instead of giving a haiku, which, again, might also go over the heads of Western children. Like, something that... And that's what a good English dub should do. A good English dub is not word for word, this is a translation. A good English dub is a localization. What somebody in Japan understands and what's commonplace for them is something that's very different to what's commonplace for a Westerner of the same age. So
I'm
they would
just
need to do something
imagining
there.
replacing the haiku with the Angoramon's weekly dirty limerick.
Or just him rapping. I want him to, do some slam poetry.
Oh no, please don't, no.
Surely they'd do something there if there was an English dub to just explain something. I don't know. I feel like that's... My one lowlight is something that I could just be missing, and I'm very much likely missing, about where they went with Sepikmon. They solved it entirely too quickly. But again, Ghost Game problem. I can't criticize it too much because it's the problem with the whole series. Each episode needs to be longer.
And God, I wish we had gotten just a little bit more out of Jellymon. Like, Jellymon got some reactions in, but really could have used a little more.
Yeah, that's gonna touch on one of my lowlights, actually, if you don't mind me hopping in here.
By all means.
Go ahead.
So, it was kind of annoying to see Jellymon and just, to be honest, kind of everyone at large just being straight up, neglectful of Kiyoshiro in this episode.
Yeah.
My man almost dies several times, and after the first one, Jellymon is just like, stop being a baby, you just imagined it. But, she had to defibrillate him to bring him, back to consciousness.
To be fair, she does do that a lot.
But even
because he's having some anxiety attack, she electrocutes him.
But that's what I'm saying. A Digimon...
If your partner says, hey, I have these real vivid hallucinations.
Yeah, and
walk it off.
Piccolo or Picklemon or whoever, literally, if nothing else, knocked your human partner out, and you're still just, letting him sit there on the chair like it's no big deal that he could have, just seriously injured your human partner. And it feels very...
never talk about him again.
If not outright neglectful, at least very disrespectful to Kiyoshiro, and it just kind of sucked to see Jellymon being so, indifferent towards him in the first part of the episode.
See, I wasn't too surprised because Kiyoshiro, it's like the boy who cried wolf. He is always afraid of something. He's always not wanting to do something because he's afraid. So it wasn't too unbelievable that they would maybe disregard what he has to say a little bit because of his past behaviour. Not saying that it's good to ignore your friend, but Jellymon is kind of used to Kyoshiro being kind of like this. So, and she's not super mature, and that's the whole thing, that they are child-level Digimon. They're still children. So, I don't think it's too unreasonable for them to kind of be like, yes, sweetheart, we know
the other
that
humans
the demons
are also very dismissive too. Like it is a
and like I mean,
it is a group effort.
Jellymon has done that like the thing before where she like teased him with the needle or whatever too. It's kind of a pattern of her being neglectful and mean towards him.
Oh yeah, Jellymon is not. I like her as a character, but she's not a good quote unquote person. She is a bad person. She's got a bad person. I love her, but she's very flawed. She has a lot of
we're well over halfway through the series at this point, and that hasn't changed even a little bit.
Well, but there are some times where she cares about other people. In the one where everyone almost froze to death, she was like super pissed that Kiyoshiro had gotten hurt. But sometimes when Kiyoshiro gets hurt, she's just like, walk it off, punk.
She did. Yeah. There is a scene in this episode where she does look fairly concerned for him when he's actually passed out and dead.
Yeah, and but he was passed out before too, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but because it happened the second time, now this time that she's kind of like actually concerned, and there's like looks like Gamamon has thrown his box of chocolates at Kiyoshiro, which is really funny, and he's also looking concerned, and Hiro's on the phone. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say that Hiro was entirely neglectful. He seemed to be looking for a reason for what was happening the whole time, so I can kind of pass that off as something that he would do. So I don't think that the characters were being too unreasonable. Hiro was taking it seriously, but in his own way, that he was researching, because that's just his character. Something weird happens and he goes to Google, like mood. Whenever I see something that's not normal, like why is this happening? So I don't mind it too much. Do we have any other lowlights?
Yeah, the fact that we did another, just so you know, in case you didn't realize, humans don't like to be killed, so please don't do the kill to them, resolution.
I think it was a little bit different than that, because it was more like Sepikmon wasn't killing the humans necessarily. He was just trying to have them pass over.
He wasn't trying to kill them, he was just trying to make them die.
Yeah,
that's not a distinction.
I'm going to drag your soul across the river Styx.
Yeah, but that, Kyoshiro was already dead, so...
He wasn't, though.
I'm gonna prevent you from leaving is a thing he very specifically said.
Yeah, but it wasn't like he killed him in the first act. It's not like he wanted him to be brought... Well, no, Picklemon did.
What was dropping all of the stuff around?
No,
Kyoshiro
I mean first act.
Yeah, so but I'm saying, I mean, I know the bomb killed him the first time, but after that, it's sure not like I totally forget its name, but my impression was that it's not like it wasn't trying to kill him.
Yeah, we sure did drop glass on him
and hit him with a car that you hacked.
The end part wasn't them telling him, hey, killing people's bad. It was more like about how he was making friends, and I guess more of encouraging death or being a catalyst for death, but I don't think it was really the same as, humans don't like to be killed, like we've seen in previous episodes.
I mean, it just comes back to we needed there to be a conversation that couldn't happen because, we didn't have time for it.
It was barely even a conversation. They didn't really talk to him. They were more like talking about him while he was there. They were just saying, hey, we can't just have him trying to bring people over to the other side before their time as soon as they have one slight instance
go hang out at,
death.
I guess, a graveyard. I mean, it is a resolution, but it sure would have benefited from some expurgation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a rushed resolution, but that's Ghost Game.
Yeah, and admittedly, me phrasing it as "Hey, humans don't like to be killed, so please don't do that." It is reductive, but that was very much the vibe that I got from the finale. Was just, it was all a big misunderstanding. This Digimon just wanted to
after they're ready.
Just wanted to make friends, and it's all one big wacky misunderstanding. And then I also mentioned how I didn't really like that Betsumon was just here, but I might just be being a curmudgeon about that.
No, I liked that Betsumon was there, because at least it would have been extremely plot convenient if he's rushed to hospital by the ambulance and he's just taken to Mummymon. That would have been weird. But this way, he's taken away by a nurse. We even had to do a transfer to
Mummymon's hospital. Like, there was a little bit of work involved.
Yeah, but because there was Betsumon who was... The bad thing is that Betsumon has been shown to, replace humans, so what happened to the poor nurse that he replaced?
Mm-hmm.
That's
there
sad.
are questions we're not going to answer.
Yeah, or maybe he
How many people have died for you, Kiyoshiro? How
Poor
many?
Kiyoshiro.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready to move on to favourite character? We still got lowlights.
I'm good to move on.
I think I'm ready, yeah. I don't have any other lowlights.
My favourite character is Jellymon, and also one of my, I guess, highlights that I forgot to mention is that when we first saw Tez the Jellymon, I wasn't too fond of her design, but the way she was animated in this episode, when she's glowing because she's got that extra energy from the medicine, she looked really cool. Tez the Jellymon looked great, so the way that she was animated was just thumbs up, A+.
Sick, yeah.
So Jellymon's my favourite, and I just thought I'd throw in that extra highlight that I forgot to mention. So Chloe, who is your favourite?
I'm going to go with Kiyoshiro this episode.
Was almost mine in this episode until the Jellymon fight scene. So completely valid.
Mm-hmm.
And Quinn?
Yeah, also Kiyoshiro, just intensely relatable.
Yep.
That's very valid, and I'm glad that I chose Jellymon now, because it's something different. We're not just all we didn't record together, but in the 2 episodes ago, we all chose Angoramon. Because Angoramon was just really good in that episode. So I'm very glad that I chose Jellymon, so there's some form of differentiation between the group of us. What about rating out of 5? I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's definitely my lowest 5, but I really loved this episode. I loved that it was creepy. I just thought it was a really good episode. I enjoyed it, and so 5 out of 5 for me. Chloe, what are we giving this episode?
So I think I'm giving this a 4.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4, but I'm going to put it at the top of my 4s, and I apologize because I did not have the specific position ready, so let me do that.
It's okay.
Quick.
We're not up to the ranking part anyway.
Okay.
We'll just go through the rating, so you can spend that time.
I will figure it out real quick then, yeah.
So that was a 4 for you, Chloe, and Quinn, what is your rating out of 5?
I'm going to split the difference and go with 4.5. I liked an awful lot about this episode.
Yeah, I was honestly almost putting it as a 4.5, but I really like this episode. So that means that overall the score for it is 13.5 out of a possible 15 points, which means that it is tied with episode 4 and episode 26. So episode 4 was The Doll's Manor. Episode 6 was Cannibal Mansion. Do we like this episode more or less than these 2 episodes, or between the 2?
I'm going to say more than both of them, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm planning to put it above Cannibal Mansion, and I don't...
Episode Doll's Manor
4
was the
I have up higher
Halloween
anyway,
Pumpkinmon.
Yeah, I think I'd put it above Cannibal Mansion, but...
Okay, so between 4 and 26?
That works for me.
Okay, I will put it there then. So that means that in our overall ranking, that puts episode 33 in 11th place. In terms of my own ranking, I've also put it in 11th place. So I guess I'm on track this week. So yeah, that's my 11th place. Chloe, have you worked out your ranking?
I have. I'm putting it in 14th place, below episode 1, but above episode 26.
Cool. And Quinn?
I'm putting it in 8th place, which is sort of funny considering that you gave it a 5, but that is at about the top of my 4.5s, I believe.
Yeah, well, okay, so I've clearly given 11 fives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've given 11 fives.
Air has doled out far more 5s than the rest of us.
Yeah. So that's going to hang out there in a third of these episodes are 5s for me. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm enjoying this series so far, which is good. Nothing wrong with that. So so all of us have this episode as more or less in the top third of episodes, so that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Or I guess higher than the top third, so that's good. Thumbs up. Mm-hmm. And do we have any miscellaneous thoughts that we didn't mention that are good to mention?
My miscellaneous thought was gonna be that I liked that they did the here's the Digimon info at the end of the episode, but I thought that was when they had added extra time for it, and that is not the case, so I rescind it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would have liked it. I'm glad that they put it at the end and not at the start, which Adventure Colon for some reason I'm not sure if I'm misremembering, but did Adventure Colon have like the Digimon Analyzer at the start of the episode for like 20 episodes or something?
I think you're right, but then they moved it. They didn't really ever decide what they wanted to do.
I feel like the one time I
really
ever saw
weird.
it was at the end, but I also came in pretty late.
I have a strong feeling that they used to put it at the start, which would sometimes just straight up spoil the episode. It was very weird.
Yeah.
So that is it for the discussion, unless there's any other points that we didn't touch on before.
So I had a miscellaneous thought, which is that the existence of the river Styx implies the existence of a Caramon who, fairies want to cross.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know more about the cosmology of Ghost Game now. Especially because humans go to a different place than Digimon do, apparently. Maybe.
Yeah, I would like them to touch on this more. Yeah, it is fairly interesting. And also usually by now in a series of Digimon, we find out what happens to Digimon when they die. We've never really touched on it. This episode just touched on what happens to humans when they die. So...
Yeah, We've
established
the answer to what happens to you when you die. Anyway, end of episode.
Imagine if they saw Bokumon.
We have to be dealing with this at some point, right? We're making dealing with death and ghosts a recurring thing.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I still use Digimon pay off anything.
Yeah.
Learn from what happened with Try.
My super long shot, please let this be the case theory is that we're gonna find Hiro's dad in that little purgatory realm, and they're gonna go back.
Yeah, we have to go to the farm upstate and find Bokumon and Hiro's dad,
and then guide them back to the real world.
And fight our way out of hell or something.
Yeah, exactly.
God, what a weird series Ghost Game is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, surprisingly so. Now that we're done discussing this episode, let's go over to Pondering, Postmon Pat, and predictions. So first up with Postmon Pat, we have Digital Hazard, who says this episode was kind of weird, kind of mad that they didn't do more with Meikumon, and felt odd that no one questioned Gammon being so passionate about him, Hiro especially, unless this was part of the Betsumon spell. Yeah, I would say it was part of the spell or whatever was going on with Betsumon.
Yeah, I didn't initially, but in retrospect, it kind of had to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really explain... we know that the show has multiple Digimon existing of the same species, so it was weird that they were like, hey, who are you? I've not seen you before, when they could have just said, oh, look, another Gammamon. So my main problem with last week's episode was we don't know what they saw Gammamon as. That was just weird to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're just... another Digimon.
Yeah, which we know that Digimon exist. We've seen multiple Hawkmon. We've seen multiple of the same species of Digimon. So it was just... I couldn't get past that last week's episode. Next, we have Rune, who says that they guess inherently it's hard to see Betsumon as too disturbing, given that he's a bit of a gag Digimon from the start. They like the balance between the more slapstick approach, but the seriousness of the conundrum that he put Gammon in. Also, it's funny as hell that Hiro decided to shoot the Betsumon with Gammamon LOL. And yeah, wish they put more thought into what evolution we were getting. It's the only time it's ever obvious what Digimon that they're doing is if they need to fly or not. It's Chaos Gamamon. If not, it's any of the other ones.
Yep.
Except for the sometimes where Battle Gamamon can fly.
Oh yeah, that's right. That is silly. I wish we saw less of Battle Gamamon. He's my least favourite.
Yeah.
I still think Wezen Gamamon's my least favourite.
I like Wezen Gamamon, but he just doesn't really do much.
Exactly.
I wish he did. I like his design. I like his little Triceratops design.
Yeah.
Anyway, next we have Mystic Digital, who says, great episode, the marketing really committed to it, releasing posters and even changing the Ghost Game website. So we had a lot of art that was official that had, instead of Gamamon hanging out, it was Gamamon with Betsumon's face on like the poster for Digimon.
So good.
It was really good, and it was so surprising that the marketing went so heavily into this one episode.
Yeah.
Like a week before it aired, we had like a poster of Gamamon and Battle Gamamon like being side by side, and then when the episode aired, we had them changing the Ghost Game poster to just have Betsumon's face on Gamamon. It was very good, but very surprising that they went so in with the marketing. Big fan of that, though. Mm-hmm. Next, they said the ending was a bit abrupt, but satisfying enough. They didn't want the fight. They wanted Gamamon to get his due beating out of Betsumon, and Gamamon's breakdown, once he's recognised, was heartbreaking and reminds you that he really is just a little kid. And yeah, I was emotional about the breakdown as well. Mm-hmm. They then say that this was the first episode completely from his perspective, which plays further into all 6 characters being important instead of just the humans. They're hoping to see Thetismon in next episode since it looks like it's Kyoshiro focused. And I guess we didn't need to have Thetismon in this episode because it was just like an armor level Digimon, so Tesla Jellymon was enough. So
and we also gave us a convenient energy up.
Yeah, like the buff also helped, so I don't mind the fact that we didn't go overkill into perfect form, because there may or may not be a power limit or some sort of limit put on the perfect level.
There seems to be a bit of a time limit or something, but yeah.
Yeah. But we've not really seen the perfects enough to do that. I'm so glad that we didn't have Hero randomly come in and have Ken and Weissmon save the day again. I'm glad we didn't do that.
Yeah, that would have been awful.
Yeah, that would have been like a 0 out of 5 episode for me if we just for some reason did that. Mm-hmm. Next we have Danny, who is responding to how the majority of my complaints for last week's episode were the fact that I don't know what they saw Gamamon as. And Danny says that they think that Betsumon's power affects how people would see Gamamon. And I guess, but I wish that they were a little bit more clear about that. Like maybe if Gamamon sees himself in the reflection of a puddle or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have been fine, not doing that for quite a while, but somewhere before the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, imagine if he just sees himself as Agumon. What a coincidence! Mm-hmm. I would die. But I would also kind of love that if it was just as a little Easter egg that he's just Agumon for some reason.
Yeah, or some recurrent Digimon doesn't necessarily need to be Agumon. Gomamon would be funny because it would be, sort of similar in appearance.
Or just Betamon, because it's Beta and Gamma and... Yeah. And also Betamon's also a child-level Digimon.
Yeah.
Next we have Lazy Croconor, who says that, while they enjoyed the episode, they do have issues. Like, they wish at least they showed people how people actually see Gamamon. Like, it was like a weird spell for how Kyoshiro reacts to being tied up when they show Jellymon, but really, are the kids not suspicious about the weird stuff on their mouths? By now, partners feel like the fake Jellymon didn't think of as an excuse as to why she didn't face through a wall, why she didn't go to get her job done, or Hero seeing a more weird Gamamon. Probably nitpicks, but they kind of annoyed them. Mm-hmm. Also, Clockmon shouldn't be the one taking care of Betsumon. It should have been Blacktailmon, so they can appear without progressing the plot. I guess, now that we have Clockmon being referenced as putting Betsumon to work to make plot convenient moments like they did in this week's episode, sort of less plot convenient by putting some slight plot in there, I don't mind that it was Clockmon that showed up. I initially complained that it was Clockmon that showed up because Clockmon had previously been like, what the hell are you, strange Digimon who is not Gamamon? I initially thought, Blacktailmon would have fitted much better to deal with them, but because we actually saw them again, I don't mind that it was Clockmon. but only because it was referenced again in this episode. So this episode made last week's episode not as upsetting for me. Next they say about next week's episode, so this week's episode, it looks really cool. It seems that Kiyoshiro will enter on some sorts of coma. At least that's what they can think of. Like 1 second shot of Jellymon seeing someone in bed with medical equipment. And yeah, I thought it would just be a coma or a dream or some illness, not just death. I did not expect death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then we have Narumi, who says the joke episode wasn't so funny for them, and Hiro was so dumb not to realise which one was a real Gammamon. I think that this problem is also related to what they saw Gammamon as. I don't think it's the fact that they were 2 Gammamon, it's that Gammamon, the real Gammamon, was
magic.
Yeah, it was just magic, but I wish the show explained that better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wish that we could at least see Gammamon as being slightly different, or at least, like, fuzzy or glitched or something. I don't know.
A visual cue by the end would have been pretty helpful.
Yeah. And then we have them say that the best part was Mekumon in the rain talking to Gammamon, but the ending is very weak. They're not the fan of this kind of episode, so it's one of their least favourite episodes of the season. And yeah, I also like the fact that Mekumon was there, but Mekumon definitely can't catch a break in this series at all.
Yeah.
And next we have Andrew, who says that it's another okay episode. If only they had a teaser for Gulas Gammamon, even a moment where we see Gammamon in the shadow thinking about turning into Gulas Gammamon. Foreshadowing or teaser could help a lot for these episodic episodes, so they can call back to characters that we know before, but not really tease a story arc. And I mean, I just feel like that's just the show. Yeah. Like, that's just kind of what happens.
Yep, I wish they had made a different decision, but I will stop bitching about that particular decision, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's it for Postmon Pat. So what are our thoughts about the series so far?
I hope they do more episodes where the kids' lives are in danger, which sounds like a terrible thing to say, but it led to good stuff this episode.
Yeah, well,
I totally agree.
Some actual stakes helps, and I am cautiously a little more optimistic after this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm feeling good about this episode, especially because we've addressed that we can have these reoccurring characters come back. Like, I know Mummymon was already kind of a staple of being a character that will just show up, but I'm kind of glad that we got Betsumon to show up, even though I wasn't a fan of Betsumon in the episode. Mm-hmm. At least he kind of came back and was explained to be being told what to do by Clockmon. I'm surprised we saw Picklemon show up, but again, it makes sense because he kind of said that he'd be following Gammamon around, so I kind of forgot that he said that until he showed up. I actually forgot that episode happened until this episode, so I'm glad that we're calling back to previous episodes somewhat. Mm-hmm. But overall, like, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the series so far. However, I hope that the Digimon Encyclopedia at the end of each episode, I hope that's not like a reoccurring
thing.
We could just drop the encyclopedias, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have just been in this episode because we didn't have the analyzer screen when Sepikmon showed up, because it just showed up to Kiyoshiro. So it could have been that. Mm-hmm. But it would be weird to animate a whole intro for it if we're not going to use it each episode.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that Ghost Game did not need. Ghost Game did not need a loss of 1 minute per episode. It didn't need to lose any more time than it already lost. I feel like that's surely only going to hurt episodes going on. I can't imagine them all of a sudden being able to resolve their stories in less time. It just doesn't feel right. But so that makes me a little bit nervous, but the fact that I enjoyed this episode so much, even with the analyzer, even with still a moderately kind of rushed ending, I still have high hopes for the series, but I just hope we do better with the endings. Like, they feel... I've mentioned Roald Dahl a lot in terms of the series, where each episode is good, but they don't know how to be ended like a Roald Dahl book. Oh, I'm a mouse? Hey, Grandma, you didn't have much long to live, and mice don't live very long, so I guess we'll be dying at the same time. Like, geez, that is dark for a children's book. Roald Dahl, learn how to finish your endings. So yeah, I wish they were better with their endings and not make them feel rushed. But episode 34 is called Wall Crawlers. We've got some geckos going on here. We've got some Uncanny Valley related horror going on. We have geckos with human faces. That's horrifying. Mm-hmm. Do we have any predictions?
Not particularly. It just kind of struck me as, wait, didn't we already do this episode when it was, what, Mothmon or whatever was in the satellite or whatever?
Yeah,
but it's neat to know that this one affects. It's neat that this one affects humans too instead of just Digimon. So that's cool.
Yeah. It looks like it's just the Betsumon episode again. How that was also but it's like the reverse of the Betsumon episode. While Betsumon had his face on human bodies, this one it's a human face on a Digimon body. It looks like it's going to be a cross between the Morphomon episode as well as the Betsumon one. I hope that it's good, but it just looks really creepy, so that's good at least.
I'm always down for, something creepy hanging from the ceiling and crawling on all fours. It's a good horror trope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also not looking forward to it because it sounds horrifying.
Oh yeah.
They've released the synopses for episodes 33 to 37 just this morning. I won't spoil them. I have a video that I'm releasing tomorrow morning if people do care about what's in those. But one episode in particular is straight up a horror movie that I saw very recently. It's called The Descent, if anyone's seen that. But that is an upcoming episode. Yeah. And I'm very much looking forward to that because I recently saw that movie. It was horrifying. Thumbs up. I love horror movies. And that episode is just... I read it to Brady before and I was like, hey, what movie is this? And he was like, that's The Descent. Very excited about that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Ghost Game a lot. Yeah. And lots of creepy episodes judging by all these synopses for these upcoming episodes. So big fan of that. Big fan of seeing how creepy the next episode is. Mm-hmm. Alright everyone, so thanks for listening. You can find the link dump in the description, and so is our Redbubble. You can contact us and stay updated, and you can email us at and send us spam, of course, most importantly, to LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com. You can also comment on this episode on our website, LostinTranslationmon.com, or on this episode on YouTube. You can follow us at TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can follow us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm at Digimon_hero on TikTok, and I stream on twitch.tv/translationmon. Digimon Survive is coming out soon, and I intend to most likely be doing a stream about it, so definitely check out the Twitch channel for when that comes out, because it actually looks good. It is aimed at more adult people rather than children, so that's cool. Looks like there's going to be some permanent death, so that is thumbs up. Love permanent death. So yeah, excited for that. And you can also chat with us on the Lost in Translationmon Discord server. Someone remind me to set up a Digimon Survive channel for when that comes out, because presumably there will be spoilers that people don't probably want in the standard Digimon discussion channels. So somebody remind me to get on that. And if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review on any podcast catcher that accepts reviews. Also, I mentioned that I did migrate from one host to another recently, and JCMon05 mentioned that it didn't update on Google. So if you are listening on Google, you might be struggling to hear this, I guess, unless you go to YouTube or somewhere else.
Maybe but you're not, actually.
Try searching for Lost in Translationmon again. I have tried to update some links. Maybe the links for Google changed or something. So you might have to search for it again and resubscribe. But just let me know if you're having any issues with any podcast catcher that you're using and you have to listen to it on YouTube for whatever reason, and just let me know. So you can donate to the Patreon, which links in the description, from as little as $1 a month. That gets you access to the Patreon-only areas of our Discord server, but there are higher levels, more rewards such as unedited and early episodes, and more. And thank you to our current supporters on Patreon: Stephen Reeves, who is wildly for on Archive Our Own; Kadawashi Chisai, who can follow on Twitter at Chisai26; Neobu, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236, Lizmet, who is Electmon on Tumblr, Nicholas, Sam, Emery from Gone While Hunting a Hunt Hunter Rewatch podcast, Magnus, Lucas, JCMon05, Patrick, Jason, Great Tanuki, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who is on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dedicated Gazi, Alemist Michael, and Teropiamon. You can also make a one donation on PayPal, which we found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Airdramon. You can also donate to me on my Ko-fi account, which is ko-fi.com/Airdra. And of course, thank you to my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts for joining me this week. Chloe and Quinn, thank you for joining me. Do you have anything you want to plug or reference? Is there anything you've been watching lately? Last week, because I was on my own, I just went off about Dead End because that's what I watched recently. Do y'all have anything that you want to recommend or plug?
The Good Place is still really good.
I was just going to say the same thing. We started watching The Good Place again recently.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it all as it came out. Such a good show, such a good everything. It's so good. I definitely agree about watching that.
Anyhow, I would like to go because I need to use the bathroom.
That is completely fair. So I guess everyone, I advise you to go to the bathroom, and we will see you all next time once you're done with the bathroom. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.